All right, it's COMP397 and it's week 9, lesson 9, part 3, and we're going to forego our comfortable hangouts, school hangouts. I'm doing it live this time around, and I'll just do what we normally do with my regular modus operandi with ScreenFlow. Okay, so we go back to the Windows side, and so far we've kind of made a couple things. I need to add in that state machine, and remember I talked about this with Ali. Ali said, "Hey, Tom, I want you to make the asset thing first, but I need to make it so that this stage here, it doesn't add things to stage, it adds it to game." Okay, so how do I do that? So I need to make, instead of just making a stage, I need the stage, but I need to add in a framework for my game. So I'm going to say var game. That's my new game state, if you will, or my game container, right? Var game is of type create.js.container. That's what it is. It's a container. Okay? All right, and what I need to do is when I enter my main program down here, right, and this particular function, I need to kind of call on my main game container. So I'm going to say add main game container, right? Or instantiate new game container. Instantiate new game container. We'll do it here, right? All right, I was going to do that here, and I'm going to say game then is equal to new create.js.container, right? That's what that is, right? And what I'm going to do is instead of adding this to stage, right, I'm going to add this to game. So I'm going to go ba-bum, 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 la-la, right? And then the bottom, after I've added everything to the game container, I'm going to add the game container to the stage. So I'm going to say stage.addChild game. So I'm going to put that in. Add game container to stage. Right? So that's what I've done. I've kind of created a game container here, and I'm adding that onto the stage here. Right? And the reason why I'm doing that again is because I want to encapsulate my game eventually to do that. All right, so that's one. I need to do that. That's one piece I need to take care of. The next piece I need to take care of is anywhere that I've added things to stage, I should check my objects to make sure that I didn't add anything directly to the stage. I probably did not, but just in case, I want to check them. So first of all, let's check my scoreboard, because I think I may have done it here. Like for example, stage.addChild. That's wrong. It should be game.addChild, right? So game.addChild. Right, so it adds it to the current game container, whatever the game container is. Now I could, again, in future iterations, I may want to pass in game into my constructor, because it may not be game, it may be something else, right? But for now, game.addChild is fine, right? Okay, cool. So there's my game container. Let's see if I've done it with my plane or something else. So do I do anything with plane? No, I don't add anything here because I add my plane later. I know I do that from my ocean, island, and cloud. Let's take my game object, make sure there's nothing else added to stage here. So this is good. So I've got everything added to game. So now, if everything goes well, everything now will be running within my game container. All these things are added to game, right? And then my stage.addChild, right? I'm adding my my game to my stage. Let me make sure I got stage update, stats end. I'm not adding anything else in here to my game. You know what? I better check my collision class too, just because. Make sure. This is what I have to do because I'm converting everything to my game container, and I don't want anything to be added to the stage. Now it looks like my collision class is good. I'm okay. Okay, so it looks like I'm good. Let's test this out. So I'm going to go game. I'm going to pre-build everything, and I'm going to run it in Chrome. Let's see if it's good. And refresh. Looks like we're good. To really test this out, and this is something that I like to do as well sometimes, just to ensure things are good, is after I've done all this stuff and added to game, right? Stage.addChildGame, I want to do a console.log. Let's do a console.log down here, and I'm going to put game in there, right? I want to kind of output what the game container is to my console, just from a debugging perspective, right? So now, turn down the sound again for you guys.
Yay.
All right, so the sound is turned down, so I'm not getting any sound, but let's take a look at what the game container is going to look like. Some more tools. I'm going to go JavaScript console, and it should show me my game. And if you notice, it says A. Take a look. This is A, right? If I click on A, it shows me that my game actually has an array of 8 children, ocean, island, plain, and a few clouds. Right? I also have a couple of other things. I have this one, which is an unnamed child. It's an anonymous child, right? Which is my fonts. These things are anonymous images. That's one. And the other one is my score. So my score and my lives are in there as well, right? But those are the ones I have. I only have 8 children in my game. Now this is important because remember, when I'm keeping track of assets, when I clean up my game later on, I want this to be 0. I don't want my game to be with anything at all. Okay, so that's good. Let's take this console.log away, right? Now what I want to do is I want to take my game, my whole game that I have right now, and I want to put it into its own class, a play state, if you will, that I'm going to call every time I run the game. Okay? How do I do that? Now you're going to say, are you doing it just for structure? I'm doing it because I need to do it. No. Okay, so I need to create my own area here. I'm going to go right-click on scripts. I'm going to go add a new folder, and my new folder is going to be called states, right? And inside my states, I'm going to make add a new kind of states, a new TypeScript file that I'm going to call my play state. Because my play state is my first state that I'm going to run, right? Here's my play state. Okay, so let's try this out. So I'm going to say, make this a little bigger for you guys. So module, right, states, right, these are my states. And inside my state, I want to export my new game class, or my new play class. Export. Right, we're going to call this play. That's my class, play. I can do okay. Okay, so my class play. Okay, I don't have a play class. I have a game, right, all this stuff. And I know I need a couple things, right? I know that setup stats is going to be part of my main game, nothing to do with my state. Every state is going to have stats, so I'm not going to remove that. Every state is going to have an init function that sets up my stage and my enable mouse over. All that stuff is going to be part of every state individually. I could add that into each individual game, but there's no point to do that. Okay. Here's my game loop. This I'm going to have to figure this out because I'm going to have to update. I'm going to have its own update that updates everything. I don't have to update my ocean, plain, and island because not every state is going to have an ocean, plain, and island, right? So each individual game state will have its own game loop or update. Right? I need that. So that means that inside my play class, I need an update function. There's my update function. I need that. Right? If that makes any sense to you, right? Because my update function is going to contain all that stuff that it's going to update. So I need that. All right. So it's going to contain all this stuff. My scoreboard, all this stuff up to here. My stage I can keep here because my stage is part of my main file here. But all this stuff has to move. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to move this to my play. Now I don't have ocean update. I don't have a plane, an island, and all this stuff yet. I have to do all this. Well, how do I get this? That means that up here in my constructor, I have to have a constructor for my class. So here's my constructor. And I'm going to call this constructor just the empty constructor for now, right? Because we're not going to call anything yet. And this is as a public update function that I'm going to use. This is my update method, right? And this is going to be in my public methods. I need that for sure, right? Well, this is cool. I like my update, right? But I also need, right, some other stuff. I need this, all this stuff, game, new container, all this stuff. I need all this stuff, right? I'm going to add things to stage. All this stuff is what I need for my game. So this main function here, this main function, right? I need to do all of this, right? All of this stuff, right, in my constructor, right, or whatever you want to call it. I could call it my main function. I call it main. Doesn't matter. So I might as well, keeping everything the same, just copy this whole main function and go into my game, my play state, and it's a public method again, right, that I'm going to put underneath like this, right? So there's my game. I don't need the word function because it's not a function, it's a method now. So this is going to be called my main method, right? Got a couple methods here. Now in my constructor, I need to call my main method, right? When my game is instantiated, my main method is called, right? So I'm going to say this.main, right? Need to call my main method. Make sense? All right. So this looks so far so good. Now there's a couple of problems here. I don't have a scoreboard, a collision, or anything like that I got to have in here. And I got to include these things inside my properties, my game properties, if you will. Right? So let's go back to my game. And I have all these game properties that I listed up here. Stage, and canvas, and game. Oh, game container has to move. So this one here, that's got to go into, actually, well, that's going to stay. That's going to stay because game is going to be added in. It's going to be a global property. I'm going to swap that out in the beginning. But this ocean, island, plane, and all this kind of stuff, that's got to move for sure. So all these game variables and the scoreboard, that's got to go. And you know what? My assets, my collision, all that stuff, that's all going to go. Right? Because that's got to move. If I don't have those things, I can't do anything. Right? But hold on. I preload my assets all the time when I first start off the game. So I don't need assets, but I definitely need collision because not every game is going to have its own. It's going to have its own collision manager. So other than assets, I need everything else. All right. So let's just copy everything for now, paste it in there, and then remove the stuff we don't need. All right. So bam. So remember, I don't need the vars. So I'm going to take care of my ocean, my plane, my island, right? My clouds, scoreboard, and from a game manager perspective, I need those. I don't need my assets because those are going to be preloaded, but I definitely need my collision class because that's going to be something that I want. Okay, cool. So these are all the things I've kind of instantiated here, and these are going to be all public, right? So, well, I don't have to make them public, but let's just make them public properties for now. You'll see how this works out in a second. We can always change this later on. Public. All I'm doing, and again, it's like watching paint peel for you guys, but what I'm doing here is I'm changing the game from something that I'm running inside of my main game.ts file to a play state, its own play state, the play class, if you will, right? Okay, so here's my constructor, that kind of thing, and then I go into my public properties, you know, as an example. And as I go down, I hit my main which is also a public method, right? And now when I start going in here, let's look at my update. It's going to be ocean update, but it's going to be this.ocean.update. So this.ocean. And you know what? It's this.plane, because it's part of my class. And this.island. And you know what? For cloud is equal to cloud, blah, 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 blah. This.clouds, right? Update. And this.collision, check. Right? And this.clouds, cloud. Sorry. I got to add this keyword in here because I'm referring to these things, right? Same thing with this.collision check and this.scoreboard update. This is in my update function. So every time I run my play states update function, right, all these things are going to update, right? And the same thing goes here. So it can't be just game. It got to be this.game, right? And this.ocean, right? And this.ocean, and this.game, and this.island. And the same thing goes with all this stuff. So I'm just going to copy and paste this to this keyword and put it before all my stuff. I think you guys got the picture, right, what I'm doing. And this is wrong. I'm already getting in some mistakes. So I'm realizing it's going to be the main game container for a second. No problem. I'll fix that in 1 second. So I'm not going to put it part of those things, but I will put it part of this thing. Now stage is different, and stage.addChildGame, that's definitely going to be in there, right? But it's not this.game, it's just game, because game is the public game container that I'm using. That I'm instantiating here as a new container. Okay. I've almost got this going. My new manager, this.collision, this.scoreboard. I want to make sure that I hit everything. Cloud, this.clouds. And I think I got everything. Okay, good. So now I've got my new state, my play state, right? My play state has two methods, my main method and my update method. Okay, what am I going to do? In my main method of my game class, my main game TS file, I'm going to run my main method of I'm going to instantiate my play state for the first time. I'm going to kick it off, right? And when I instantiate my game state, that's what I'm going to do, right? It's going to run my main game, then the game that we normally run. And in my update, in my game loop, I'm going to run update. That's what I'm going to be doing. All right, so let's add this in. So Ali, we're going to use your methodology to add it back into the game. So if everything goes well, I'm going to go to Solution Explorer. And I'm going to go to index.html. This is the first piece I need to do. I won't be able to get to the game state today, but so here's my index.html. And if you notice, I have all this stuff, stats, easel, blah, blah, then the utility, my managers, all my objects have to be there, my scoreboard, my collision manager, and finally underneath here, I need to have all my states. And my first state, of course, is my game state. So I can't do any of this, I can't do any of that without my game state. Okay, so let's add that in. So I'm going to say my play state goes in here, right? It's my new state, right? Play state. You following me? My game.ts file, and this is where all the changes come into play. I put it at the bottom after my collision manager, because it needs to know about collision. Okay, now the commenting out comes next. This is all good, but this all gets commented out all the way to here, except for my assets. So let's just do this for that one. But from here to my game variables, just to make sure it works, is here. So I do this because just in case something messes up, I can go back and uncomment everything and forget my play state, and I'm still good, right? I haven't messed anything up, right? preloader stays the same, my init function stays the same, and if you notice, it hits my main, which is good, which is my main part of this particular program. Setup stats doesn't change. Okay, here's my game loop. That changes. So I'm gonna kind of put everything in stasis, right? So I'll get rid of this, X this out, and put this in there, right? So this is all in stasis now. And now I'm going to say I need to instantiate my play state for a second, and this is where I'm going to put that in. So that reminds me. Here's my game managers, and I'm going to instantiate all my states, right? So here we go back in here. Right, so I'm going to say game states, and the first one is var my play state, right, is of type, right, states dot play, right? I got to do that, and then what I'm saying in here is that I'm going to play dot update. This is a problem. We're going to see this. We're going to fix this later on. For now, I'm going to update my play state. That's what this does. Now this, right now, is not going to be the way we're going to leave it. We're going to change this up. For now, we just want to keep everything the same, right? Okay, all this has to go, except for this, my game state. That can stay. That's my new container. But all of this, right now, everything that's underlined, has to go. So I'm going to kind of, put all this in stasis as well. Again, there's different ways of doing this, but I find this way is kind of the easiest way. Okay, cool. So I've got everything in here. I've got everything instantiated. Now I've got to instantiate my new play state. So how do I do that? So I say play, right, is equal to new states.play. And when I do that, I do a couple things, right? So instantiate play state. So my play state now is not going to be in my game anymore, in my game TS file. It's going to be in its own file. All right? So let's save everything. I'm still getting a bit of an error. Well, this is good. So what's in my play state? It says, I'm getting this one error that says, I don't know what this island is, of course, because I need to put the this keyword. I forgot it. This is stuff that I forgot to do. This is good. That's why errors help. I'm also getting an error in the managers. Okay, this is interesting. So maybe I forgot something here. Yeah, I did. See, it doesn't know about plane. It doesn't know about scoreboard. My collision manager doesn't know about these things, my plane and scoreboard and all this kind of stuff. So there's a bit of a dilemma here. What do? Do we make it so that the plane, right, is a global object that I just keep overwrite, or do I pass in my plane and my, all this other stuff, my plane, my cloud, and all this kind of stuff later on? Like, what do I want to pass in here? Because the one thing that I need, if you notice my errors are coming from, is scoreboard. Scoreboard seems to be something that's always the same, right? And plane. Those are the two things that are always part of my game, right? So there's a couple strategies here. I can make plane and scoreboard and all the other objects that I put in there as global objects and just have my game states or whatever, instantiate them and clean them up. That might be one thing. Or, alternatively, I could use my constructor function to pass in, my method, to pass in my plane, my game object, as an example, and my scoreboard. I could do that too. So plane and scoreboard. So when I make my managers, I pass in my plane and my scoreboard every time, right? Seems to be a little bit redundant, so which means I got to go back to the drawing board. This is good. Before I do everything, go back to my play state. And now I got to look at this and say, maybe this wasn't such a good idea to do this, right? I got to put these game variables back into the global state. And I'm just going to be using them. Each of my states is going to be using them. That might be a better way of doing things. Might even make it a little bit easier for me, right? And same thing with my collision manager. Might as well, I'm just going to call the collision manager, but I'm not going to instantiate it here. I'm going to leave it in the global scope. So I can get rid of all this. Which means I got to clean up my play state again, right? So let's get rid of all this. And now I got to get rid of all the thises again, right? Because that's the stuff that I don't need anymore because it's in the global scope, right? So update, island update, cloud update, all this stuff here. I'm leaving it in as underlines because I've removed them by commenting things out. So it's telling me what everything that I have to take this keyword away from, which is cool, right? Like this scenario. Remember, I'm building up my class for the very first time to work, and I've added in a bunch of this keywords. Actually, it makes it a lot cleaner because if I, even though I'm using the global scope, right, I am still controlling everything within my class. So again, some things we can make this work in different ways. This is just the easier way. May not be the best way, right, or the only way, but you know, it works. Okay, cool. So we can get rid of this, and we can get rid of this. And now to fix all these errors, looks like there's a ton of errors, but really there's not, because I just got to go back, save this. I got to go back into my game.ts file and put them all back up here, right? Because that's why I commented it out. Put this back, and you know what? I'm going to undo. I actually did this to put that back. My manager's got to go under managers. Kind of X that out, put that over here, and now I don't see any errors, right? So all I'm taking off is that stuff, the stuff that's common to the game, this stuff and all this. But I'm leaving the rest of the things here in the global scope, so that way I can make it work. Okay, cool. Let's build everything just to check to see for the first time, right? Looks like it builds. Let's run everything now for the first time to see if it runs in its own class. Let's refresh. This doesn't fool me, right? Okay, cool, right?
Yay.
Looks like
Yay.
it's running like it normally would run, right? In its own encapsulated play state. Cool. Just to make sure that it's running, let's kill everything now, because I think that's important to do as a cleanup function. So we get rid of all this, right? And remember, this play state, this has to be clean, because it won't be play. It'll be play, menu, whatever is going to update. When I'm in my menu, I want my menu to update. When I'm in my play, I want my play to update. When I'm in my game over, I want my game over to update. Everything's going to update at different times. All right, but all this can go. All this. Because I don't need any of this. Okay, cool. Right, so this, now my game.ts file is significantly smaller because I've got everything in its own module. Right, let's check this out. And so I've got my own game class that I'm using, or my play class, if you will. Let us refresh to make sure that I use this. Now I've totally deleted everything, so there's no way it won't work. If it's errored out, it'll error. Let's just refresh.
Yay.
This is good, right?
Yay. Yay.
And to test this out one more time, I know we're running a little overtime before we go, and this is to make my mind feel at ease, is I want a console.log, here, I'll do it at the end. I want a console.log the play state. So I'm going to say console.log, and I'll send play to the console to see what kind of object that is, to make sure that we're getting what we're really getting. Because otherwise, we don't know for sure what it's going to look like, right? So let's do that. Let's go to our More Tools JavaScript console here, and then I see I have the play state. If I open this up, I've got a prototype play, which is my class, and I open that up. I have a bunch of functions. Here's my main function. So you see how I'm getting that? And my main function, it has play.main. This is all the stuff that I'm doing, right? I keep on going in here, and I can actually look at the function, right, and what it's doing. Right? Same thing with my update, what it does, right? And I can look at my actual function scope, my global window, right? It tells me everything. I can actually go in here and look at my entire object, my play object. So you know what? I'm good. I'm really happy with this, because that means that it's been instantiated. My play object is the thing that's running right now. Right? That's the thing that's making this go, and it still runs 60 frames per second, which is really good. Okay, I can get rid of this. And now it's time to stop today's class and update GitHub. Right? So let's go and stop debugging. And I'm going to go to Team Explorer, and I'm going to go to Home, Changes, and I'm going to add these things to make sure they're there. I'm going to say added play states to the prayer for state machine. Right? And press commit. right? And of course I got to go home. Go and wait, what does it say there? Home? Yeah, unsync commits. Hold on a second. Let's go back to home changes. Oh, I forgot to add those in. Okay, added. I changed. Game.js commit. Yeah, home unsync commits. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to sync right with my Atlas branch. Okay. If I go back to GitHub, if you look at Atlas, the Atlas branch, right, which is here, then you can see that I've added in my play state, which is right here. That's my play state. So I've separated the logic outside of my main game.ts file so that it has its own class. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want to make a class for each of the different screens. I'll have my play screen, I'll have my menu screen, I'll have my game over screen, and this is, I've got a class for each of these screens. And I'm going to switch between one class and the other, depending on which one I want to show. Okay? And that's really it in a nutshell. We're going to get to that next week. Remember, your assignment 3 is due this Friday at midnight, right? Again, if you need to meet with me before that time, before Friday at midnight, because you have some issues with your assignment, something's wrong, doesn't work, whatever, please don't email me. I won't be able to get to you through email, but make an appointment. I do have some appointment space on the Friday. I do have appointment space on a Wednesday. I'm not available on Thursday this week because I'm away, but for Wednesday and Friday there are spaces available, but book me early or else you won't get me to help you out. And that's it in a nutshell. See you next week.